We ended up going deeper. I think we ended up hitting like a 5 to 7 foot void underneath. That was an inkling that it was, something was not right.
Today, I'm joined by someone whose leadership was shaped by the grit of the field, Luke Ducey, geologist, mentor, and storyteller who's worked in such high-risk environments where it's led to deep truths about courage, resilience, and adaptivity. I'm Michael Taylor. Let's dive in. Luke, your career path has taken you from rugged landscapes to leadership in science and mentoring. Can you share your story? What brought you into geology and how that shaped the leader you are today?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for hosting me. And great to be here and get this kicked off. Yes, I'll start at the beginning. So I'm from East Central Illinois, right there in the Midwest of the United States. Grew up on a farm in raising chickens and run around corn and soybean fields. So I grew up. My dad used to be a jeweler back in the day, so he had all this, amethyst and tiger's eye, quartz and diamonds, and he'd kind of tell me how all these, rocks formed and why. And it just kind of always like struck a chord with me. So I was always kind of interested in geology from there and run around farm fields. We'd find huge granite boulders that are just stuck out there in the fields. And the idea that during the ice age, the ice came down and picked up these boulders, and then as it receded back over time, it would drop these granite boulders from hundreds and thousands miles away. Just always kind of fascinated me. I was just kind of curious about what's under my feet. So my dad kind of instilled that in me, and yeah, he was a great leader, and still is. I use him all the time and talk to him. We have a family construction business back home in East Central Illinois, and he was running construction sites. So I'd get a help and see his leadership on a job site, helping clean bricks and help with the job site stuff. Later on, I would help him on side jobs and working on concrete and pouring driveways. So I learned to kind of be a leader from him, and just kind of over the years, I've had a lot of leaders kind of come into frame. At one of my firms that I used to work at, UES, Geotechnology, Ed Elizabeth, who was running the company, was a great geotechnical engineer. I met my now mentor, Dean Greenwood, and he's been like a world of knowledge of just a someone to be able to go to when you got a question and learn from them. Uh, a geology professor when I went to St. Louis University, John Encarnacion, influenced me with many trips during college at St. Louis U, traveling to the East Coast, California, Utah, Puerto Rico to like kind of learn geology in different areas because it's always different. It's always interesting. So I've had a lot of leaders. I now work at WSP USA. We're a design engineering firm with pretty large firm with my supervisor Everett Litton is kind of leading the trenchless technology, and just watching him as a leader, for our team, for what he does for our geotechnical and tunneling group. It's just, I'm always learning. I'm trying to pass my leadership off to the younger crew. But yeah, that's kind of my how I got into geology and how I've kind of become a leader from other leaders.
Excellent. Going back to what you were saying, glacier erratics, I believe it's called. It's been a while since I've done my
Yeah.
geology degree. I've ever been out in the field and someone telling me that perhaps it was through one of the lecturers, and you think, really, is that really how it's up? Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
it's possible. And then you actually learn the science behind it. I think you see some evidence, and you go, okay, yeah, I can see that. I can see how you think that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We run into it, in cornfields, and the farmers always run into these, big boulders and have to throw them to the sides. Kind of grew up with getting to see that, which is fun, and trying to figure out like the why behind it. Also finding arrowheads all over that. That's more archaeology side, but us geologists are usually always curious beings.
Yeah, definitely. So that kind of goes into the next topic, really, which is field geologists. So they deal with the risk and the judgment daily. So what's taught you about decision making, leadership, and trust?
Yeah. So there's been for decision making, I would say the best thing is do your homework before going to the field. We live in the world of modern technology. We have a lot of geologic reports. There's a lot of great information out there, from, the USGS. Um, and I mean, and not only online, but like go to your, other geologists or engineers or people in your network, if you have a new project to learn from them, to kind of know what the area is like, to know what the field conditions are going to be like. But, for us in Missouri, we have, it's something from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, and it's called GeoStrat. And we can use this site to pull up, areas of known sinkholes, cave densities, groundwater elevations, geologic maps, old well logs. I mean, a little bit of everything. And all of this is great information that is definitely helpful when, you need to, kind of get an idea of what the field's going to be like. Um, on top of that, there's other information you can get from other like DOTs or other Department of Transportations, and other, project sites. But other stuff for, judgments and risks, just, work as a team. It's, I found that, good communication, definitely helps with that. Drillers can be your best friends. I have found myself working out a ton on projects, and the key to getting good information and stuff is to become best friends with the drillers. I'm known for bringing coffee and donuts to the drillers to befriend them, because these guys know a lot about the geology. I mean, they know how drill bits and core bits and NQs and N values. They know how the soil is reacting to that. And a good communication with them is like when there's rough drilling, when there's core loss, when there's water loss while drilling. All that's great information to know, and you want to kind of become their best friends while you're out there in the field.
Yeah, it's always helpful to be friends with your driller, to be on good terms. If you're not on good terms, it makes everything that bit more difficult, doesn't it? Being out on site. I've had occasion before where you're not quite best friends, and time goes a little bit harder, I think, if you're on there, because sometimes you might ask them, can I have a look at your book and see exactly where you are, and what kind of description you've given it so far, that sort of thing, to marry up with yours. And when did this come in? When did you hit ground? What, like coffee and donuts is always the magic trick wherever you are, I feel.
Exactly. Yeah, it's always some fun, and nice little lunch breaks with them too. And there was a project recently I was working on the East Coast, and we befriended a neighbor dog who'd always walk by our job sites since we were in the heart of the city drilling for a large tunnel project. And he became our new mascot. So it's a fun kind of relationship with the drillers, and whatever it gets you through the day. But yeah, that's a fun stuff.
It helps to stand out in the rain sometimes with them as well. If you hide in the van when it's raining, there's the kind of clear engineer and driller divide. But if you happen to stand outside, sometimes even when you don't quite need to, just to say, yeah, I'm suffering too, lads, or ladies, of course.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we're all in this together kind of thing. We're all on the job site. We're all there.
Yeah.
I usually like to not wear a polo or button down when I'm out in the field, and just wear, my rugged stuff, because it's going to get dirty anyway. So I think that helps when I roll up to a site and it's not me in, my shiny hard hat. So that I think they appreciate that aspect.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Struggling to find top geotechnical and geo-environmental talent? You could use a generalist recruiter, or you could use a specialist. A Geo Expert Search. We place experts where they belong. Across the UK, USA, Australia, and New Zealand. No highways, no bridges, no structures. Just geotechnical and geo-environmental. Now and forever. Geo Expert Search. Finding the right people for the right roles with no wasted time. Visit geoexpertsearch.com to learn more.
So have you ever made any tough calls in the field? Share your story below on whatever platforms you listen to this podcast on.
Yeah.
You wrote a fantastic piece for AEP about life on the road. What does a lifestyle really look like behind the scenes?
Yeah, I do have one tough call that I had to make in the field, and I think it's important because some of the projects we work on is, they're remote, and you don't always have cell service. So we were working on a project in central Missouri, no cell service. We were drilling. I think we were going to about 50 feet for drill piers, so drill pier foundations for bridges. And we got to our 50 feet, and the recovery in RQD was not great for the rock. It was really vuggy and pitted. So we were on a tight schedule. We had multiple pier probes to do. We were working in the middle of the creek, couldn't call, and decided to go deeper. I just kind of had to make the call, and just, I just couldn't call the project manager or geotech engineer. So we ended up going deeper, and I think we ended up hitting like a 5 to 7 foot void underneath that. It just like was an inkling that it was, something was not right. And it's a good thing we did, because, you don't want to bury your drill pier right underneath a 5 to 7 foot void that's directly underneath that. So I think the lesson learned from that was, always go a little deeper. Better to know than not. And glad we were able to, assess that. And after the fact, when I was able to call the PM, they said, you made the right call. Better to do it now instead of having to remobilize and all that stuff. So I'd say that was a tough call from the field that I had to experience.
Excellent. And it was good that you were actually able to do that, make that call yourself. Turned out it was the right call. It's not always the right call, but you had it in you to actually go make that call and save a lot of money, essentially, because if you have to remobilize. We were on a site that was CPT truck, and one of them were essentially missed. And if it wasn't noticed, it would have remobilized £1,000 per day, or $2,000. So luckily, we did actually notice it. We managed to just very quick, just before it was picked up, get it back on site, one location, quickly back on the truck. And it made a hell of a lot of sense. So in terms of the piece that you wrote, go into that for the AEG about life on the road, and what does the lifestyle really look like behind the scenes?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I'm pretty involved with AEG. So AEG is the Association of Environmental and Engineering Geologists, and I've written a couple articles. The one actually refers to CPT, and that was a project we were working on up in Michigan. We were pushing for wind turbines. So this is at my previous firm, and every wind turbine needed its own CPT hole, and I'm a big fan of CPT. So got to run that. That was through Vertec, was the company who were going through who operates the system software. But for those who don't know, CPT, it's a cone penetration testing rig. It's a great tool. It gives you a ton of data. It's basically like an 1.5 inch cone that you push down the ground. It gives you your tip pressure, pore pressure, and sleeve pressure. And the benefit of that is that it's it tells you an exact stratigraphy of your soil. Whereas when you're doing SBT or working behind a drill rig, your sampling intervals are 1 to 2.5, 3.5 to 5, 6 to 7.5, 8.5 to 10, 13.5 to 15, and so on and so forth. So you're missing intervals in there. So CPT's a great resource. And for the stuff in Michigan, we were doing a couple, I think 2 or 3 10-day trips up there. And it's a lot of like packing and accordingly, to make sure you have the right equipment, to make sure you have the right PPE. Definitely a little colder to do it during the winter. Funny side story to that is when we were up there in central Michigan, we were trying to get PVC pipe. So we were setting temporary wells to kind of get an idea where groundwater was. And we kept going to all these facilities and shops, and all of them were like, "Oh, we're closed for the holiday." And we're like, "It's just a regular, Tuesday or Wednesday." And they're like, "Oh, it's deer opening for deer season up in Michigan." So they shut down for us, so we couldn't get our PVC pipe because it was a deer hunting season holiday, which just never happened before.
That's a little bit different. It's not the normal thing.
Yeah, not a holiday there to do it. But so yeah, so I've been a part of AEG. It's a great organization. I'm actually the chair of like the St. Louis group here in the St. Louis area. So it's a great to see people learn. We have a lot of student involvement from the local schools around here. We also do a AEG workshop, which is a great tool for students. And I encourage others to do something like this. It's actually at my previous employer's headquarters. They do a workshop where they set up a geotechnical drilling section, a environmental section, a geophysics section, and a lab section. So students get I think it's like about an hour and a half at each spot, and they learn about geotechnical drilling. We take some samples. They get to take those to the lab and test them. We have a geophysics setup where we're looking for underground utilities, and then we have an environmental section where we're sampling groundwater to kind of show where those, like, how the analytical testing works and the process for, using failures. So it's a great thing. We do that every other year, and then AEG always has like an annual meeting. This year it's actually in Chicago, so looking forward to going up there for that. But um, yeah, I mean, to answer your other question about life on the road, traveling is tough for us engineers, geologists. So the other article I wrote was trying to figure out how to pack for field work. All of us geotechnical engineers, environmental scientists, geologists, we all have a lot of equipment and things we need to bring, not just our PPE, but our pocket penetrometers, tour vanes, and measuring tapes, rock hammers. I think last year I did 54 flights, both, for work and personal. Spent about 5 months up in Alaska, so there's a lot of safety stuff to go along with that. But it's been great. I love it. I love time on the road. And love being able to get to experience different geology across the U.S.
Over here, not so many flights taken. Occasionally, we'll take some. I mean, I've taken some maybe up to Scotland, because it's a hell of a journey to drive, which people still do. And the engineers will kind of complain like how many hours that you would have to spend in a car. But generally, the drillers do the most traveling. And the ones kind of on a small rigs, the kind of little terrier rig, where it go to 5-10 meters at a push. They'll kind of put it in the back of a van, and they will travel to one location, do 5-6 holes, maybe. Then they'll travel somewhere else. Then they'll travel somewhere else, and you think, wow, I'm glad I'm just at least in this kind of one location, on this one site, which is generally better if you're on like a larger site and it runs on for a few months. Kind of get used to it, get used to the local places to eat. It can give you a good opportunity to get to know the people that you're working with, the drillers, the engineers, project managers, whoever, a little bit more
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
Especially when you're working on those long trips too. And just like when you're stuck behind a drill rig or multiple crews going all at once. Yeah, you really get to know everyone. But did you guys ever get the Northern Lights up there?
I've never seen it. There are people who have said they've seen it, but I've never actually seen it myself. But you can actually see up there. We had it in the UK a few months ago, not even in Scotland, kind of northern England, and it was all over the place. But of course, I seen all the pretty pictures the next day on LinkedIn or the news. I've never actually seen it myself, but it was there. People pay thousands to go and actually, see the Northern Lights in Iceland, wherever they go. But yeah, the show was there apparently. It's like when someone says, "Did you see the shooting star?" Like, where? And it's gone.
That's right. Yeah,
And of course, they're up and it's never there again. You lie.
that's right. It's already gone and passed. Yeah, it's beautiful. I got to experience that up in the Arctic Circle for many a times. And it's just a beautiful experience. And yeah, I have a ton of photos and stuff I could share and show. It's like a nature's dance is the best way to kind of describe it. And yeah, when you're working with a bunch of other staff and people in your company and others, it's like a kind of a bond that you guys all share. Even the rugged drillers we're working with, got out of the rigs and stuff to kind of just like take a moment to enjoy it. So it's a good way to, experience the culture and the life of be able to see nature and at its work.
What was it like working in Alaska? You said you were there for about 5 months. What was your kind of typical duties when you were there?
Yes, we were up in like the Northeast, and then so we were working on a project way up north, and then I was working in a mine site also in Arctic circles. Yeah, both of those, it's a lot of safety training, a lot of PPE. I think the coldest it got was like -44, which is pretty chill. And I think the most layers I had at one point was about 15. A lot of it we were able to work like somewhat from our vehicle, but a lot of the times you still had to get out and measure things and communicate with the drillers. Again, that's important to see how the conditions are and how it's going. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely challenging. At the mine site, we'd had to carry around bear mace with us. It's packing accordingly, not bringing your lunch out there, not trying to risk anything. In that case, we're working in the Arctic tundra, so it's very environmentally protected, which is a great thing. So we'd fly helicopters to and from the job site, which is always fun, but also brings in a lot of safety stuff. So a lot of training, a lot of, talking to the helicopter pilots on exiting and getting on. But yeah, it was 12-hour shifts, 24/7 drilling, good communication, and planning is what led to a successful project. But if you need a wrench, you need some extra drill rods, the helicopter's got to bring it. So it's a little bit of logistics there.
There's, it needs to be very well planned out. There's nothing you want to be leaving behind.
Yes, correct. Yeah, there were some times, and there were times where storms rolled in, so we'd have to hoof it back because the helicopters weren't running. And it'd be a long, long car ride, to walk to the roadway to then get back to the camp we were staying at. But yeah, wonderful experience again. Like, I mean, talking about connections, those individuals I worked with the client, and then other people, in WSP who are there with me, geophysicists and geologists and engineers. Those people I still talk to all the time, because we have that same bond together, getting to work on something like that together.
Nice. Okay. You've supported young professionals through challenging career phases. What do you wish more early career geoscientists knew?
Yeah, good question. I think getting out in the field while you're young is very important. I think it creates like a baseline, gives you that experience to like know what the field conditions are. It When you look on a boring log and you see like an N value, it's like, okay, well, the N value is 10. Cool. How do we get that N value? Why are the logs like all muddy? Why is the paper on those log all crinkly? It puts into perspective what amount of work goes into collecting this stuff. It was raining, so it was like the logs were wet. The drillers had, something, come flying off. So there's mud all over them. It's sitting there counting the N values of the, 555. That's the N, the 5 or the 10 N values is how you got that. And so I think it creates that, kind of connection, and, gives you that idea of like what goes into getting all this data in itself. So I think getting out behind a drill rig, or, getting out for, environmental field, getting out to project sites, you learn just so much, from project managers, senior leaders. Listen and learn. That's what, the individuals who have done it before, probably have some tips and tricks on how to do that. I think another thing would be continued education. Even though you feel like you graduate and you have your degree, continue learning. Listen to the Ground Investigation podcast. I mean, you've had some great speakers on this, and I learn stuff all the time when I listen to you guys. So, continued education is very important. Joining a professional society is great, for the Underground Construction Association, with SME, AEG, the Association of Environmental Engineering Geologists, the American Institute of Professional Geologists, AIPG. I mean, the list goes on. ASCE has a ton. I mean, get involved,
Yeah.
and learn. Get in the field, get active. It helps you build your network too on LinkedIn. Hannah Thomas, who you have interviewed, is great at that. She is a great follow, and is very good about talking about field experiences, and how that carries over. And don't be afraid to ask for help or clarify something. It doesn't hurt to get another opinion. So
Yeah, it's a really important side to it, is the field work, which we've spoken about many times for many guests, being in the lab as well, standing out with the drillers, a few kind of staple things, which helps when you go into the office, when you're project managing, when you're asking people, no, you have to stay there and you have to get there, another 2 meter depth, in the borehole. So all of these things kind of marry in. Mentors as well. Mentors are really important and can be overlooked when, everything's busy. But it's one of those things where it has to be done. You just have to kind of juggle it somehow. And I suppose when people are really bleary eyed, try to do it is a little bit trickier, but it should be kind of, up there really in terms of importance with the health and safety, and the making a profit, because it can go through into the company. They can teach other people. So it's important. Of course, we have a decline in terms of the colleges is teaching, some geology, some geotechnical courses. Also, we over here, it's kind of high school, the upper levels of high school with the A levels. Some people are stopping, relaying those courses as well. So, I mean, that essentially, it makes the mentoring side, the experience, more important, I would say.
Mhm. Yeah, it's nice to have a mentor. I mean, as soon as you can get a mentor and someone to help you, do it, whether it's a professor, for I actually, Everett, my current supervisor told me it's good to have an internal and external mentor, to get like a totally outside perspective. So, and that's been great to have someone within WSP USA. We have like a mentorship program and everything, which is a great part of it. And then I have an external one, Dean Greenwood, who I used to work with in at my previous firm. It's just nice to communicate and always get like a different perspective and have a resource to go to and just be able to call someone and say like, hey, I just need a little guidance. So it's very important.
So how do you stay grounded and focused during intense projects? What tools or habit helps you most?
Yeah, great question. So I think reassurance and knowing that why you're there is important, that like you're the expert. That's why you're there in the field. And I'd say the kind of tools and habits that help me the most is taking notes and photos. I I have taken notes every day of my career since March of 2015. So I have everything who I met, who I worked with. It sounds kind of crazy and excessive, but it has helped me so much to be able to go back and look at my younger self of lessons learned, who I met along the way. It's even helped me with, some like one project. This is very long ago, but I was testing concrete for a project, writing down, the slump and air tests and everything. I had a little graphic and a map and where this truck would poured from here to here. Sure enough, a while later, I get a phone call and they say, hey, the concrete cylinders you made didn't make the brakes. Like the concrete was bad, there's a plasticizer, extra, water. So we need to remove all of that and report it. Do you remember where it was? I was like, yeah, let me grab my book. Went flipping through the book, found exactly where it was, that truck, and that's how we exactly knew what to take out. So that's just a very small example. But it's great. I just came from a conference this week, the Rapid Excavation Tunneling Conference down in Dallas, Texas, and I came back with a ton of notes of different tunneling projects, lessons learned, what worked, what didn't, some failures that turn not so good, but can learn from those. So taking notes is very important. Taking photos, I'm sure everyone's heard the photos worth 1,000 words. It has been amazing. Referring back to that mine project in Alaska, I was taking photos, documenting stuff. We were putting in vibrating wire piezometers and thermistors and drilling, and we were trying to make sure everything was hooked up correctly, so it was communicating. And it just like wasn't working. So, and there's a lots of electronics to those things, and it's a little switch you have to flip here, a little switch you have to flip there. Sure enough, I looked at my photo and it was not in its right,
Yeah.
form. So it was still recording data, but we just had to take a quick little helicopter flight back up there to go reactivate it. But that saved me a lot of trouble trying to figure out, what is it, troubleshooting? Did we not install it right? What all those kind of things that are running through your head. And I was just able to pull up a simple photo. So photos and videos are definitely helpful and great tools. So those would be like kind of.
Yeah, no, I agree. We on some of the projects here, we would take lots of pictures of access as we're going in, because some, perhaps maybe be on a farmer's field, you have to go through their field. They perhaps say that you broke something when you haven't, or actually you were in this amount of land, but actually, you can see on the pictures, no, we didn't. We stayed here. We went this way. So it can help with anything like that that kind of transcends a little bit later on. And of course, accuracy as well to be able to go back to jog your memory if it's in a kind of date order as well, and it geotagged, like, oh, we're here then. So Yeah, they're very, very useful. Notes, of course, are always useful. Even voice notes, if you
Yeah,
got a
yeah, exactly.
learn
Yeah,
how to
voice.
with
Exactly. Yeah. I think, yeah, I think a before and after photo, like you said, for that that instance is always good. A before and after. I mean, literally, I was on a different note. I was helping a friend put in pavers, and we were excavating and putting in a new backyard little patio thing. I was like, get your before and after photos now. So like even that instills in the outside of the work life. Once we put on all this manual labor and all this work, let's like make sure we remember what it was beforehand. So yeah, photos are definitely important, and again, just take notes because they can definitely be helpful.
yeah, definitely. So, what does geoscience look like today, and where should it go next?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think where our science world is coming. I mean, that you've talked a lot about AI and some of the other talks, so
Yeah,
I won't talk about that. But I see our future kind of turning. I think that we're trying to go. There's a big clean energy push, and to kind of make things a little more sustainable. So I would say, just beyond the technical work, it's about like understanding the larger context to projects we get to work on. At WSP, we have like a future ready approach, which challenges us to like kind of look ahead at trends in climate change and technology and society and resources. And I think that means that kind of geoscience leaders today are, need to be adapting and proactive and kind of, collaborating together. Because we're all in this together, we're all in the world together. The northern lights we see in Alaska are the same, across the pond. It's we're all in this kind of together. So, we're all not just, problem solving underground. We're helping kind of shape sustainable cities and heavy infrastructure. So to make, communities better. I think where we need to go next fully is we just need to keep integrating new data tools. I mean, again, you've had some great talks on here about AI, prioritizing environmental and social responsibility, holding people accountable, making sure we're doing things right environmentally wise, and elevating, our diverse voices in the field. Leadership in geoscience, kind of just needs to evolve with the planet, because just because we're underground, it's always shifting in more ways than one.
no, nice. Okay, so this has been an interesting window into the heart of field science and leadership. Any final thoughts for the listeners walking in a similar path?
Yeah, yeah, again, I appreciate your time and hosting me and let me speak. I think my key takeaways are just, try and find a mentor, get involved early, try and, get some field experience. Keep learning, keep educating. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or connect. I'm always happy to connect the dots. Um, it's yeah, it's a great industry to be in. I mean, it seems our geology engineering world is always growing and very important. But yeah, just yeah, keep at it.
Perfect. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in to the Ground Investigation podcast. If Luke's journey starts something new, share the episode, comment with your own story, and subscribe for more conversations where field meets future. Luke, thank you very much for your time today.